Okay. Start with just a few moments, sitting comfortably, whatever posture helps you. But trying for an upright posture. If you can be forward in the chair as I am at the moment, and just have an appreciation of how you can support yourself like this without straining, then fine. But if it's too early in the session for that, or you're not familiar with those ideas, or it's just plain uncomfortable, do sit back. Maybe take a couple of slow, gentle breaths, and have this sense of your thoughts, your attention, sort of flowing down, flowing downwards into your body. Like it'll just settle in, not with any particular sort of intention to do anything other than just to get a sense for that quietness, that stillness that starts to make itself felt. Rubbing your hands together and tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder and then your arm. And on the other side. Onto the upper part of your chest. And onto your belly. And your legs. Your hands rest, and then giving a little bit more consideration to your posture, starting with your feet. Once you have your feet flat down, directly below your knees. So from the side, there's this straight line, more or less a straight line from your knee to your ankle. Try and just tilt your pelvis forwards a little bit so that you can see I go from here slightly forward, a slight angle, keeping the line from your shoulder to your hip reasonably straight, but just bringing your head and your weight a little bit more forwards so that your weight settles in that space between your feet and your hips, like a square space with your feet and your hips at the form. Hips dropping back, and at the other end, your chin just drawing in slightly. Feeling that the front of your body, belly, solar plexus, chest, and ribs are supported by your back. Now, in this position, you're asking your back to really support the front of your body. If that proves to be a strain, if that proves to be, you start to feel that you're straining in your back, then if you need to do sit back. If you can sit back and maintain a reasonably upright stance, here the lower part of my back is actually still against the chair, so there's a little bit of support there. If that doesn't work, then you might need to sit right back to rest your back. And just a little exercise to remind us of this feeling, referred to as releasing or softening Tai Chi. Starting with just pushing your shoulders up towards your ears, and then slowly down, and just focusing on the sensations in the muscles of your chest and upper back as your shoulders come down. We could apply a variety of labels to this. I've already mentioned releasing, softening, letting go is another one, yielding, relaxing. They're all aspects of the Chinese term song, which also includes things like calming and stilling, those kind of qualities. At the moment, just focusing on the physical aspect of this, because we want to get to know how this feels, because it's a process that repeats frequently in all of the movements. It's one of the primary things that we want to do is to get this feeling of allowing tightness, stiffness to drain away from our bodies. And your shoulders will drop down until they seem to sort of like rest on the top of your rib cage. It's not quite the right thing, but it's just a kind of way of understanding this. Then bringing your attention to the center of your body, so hips, belly, lower back, buttocks, and just gently pull your belly in and tighten across your lower back. And I'd emphasize the gently, and once again, release it. This is really where we want to primarily focus on this feeling, because you may notice as you do this, you do actually get a sense of that feeling going up through back and shoulders, and down into thighs and knees. Also very notable, I think, in this part of the body when we release, it's quite a strong sense of dropping. So although our knees, our hips are more or less in a fixed position, there'll be a slight movement, but nothing huge. We still get this feeling of our center of gravity dropping down through our hips, through the chair, through our feet, into the ground. So this releasing feeling gives us the start of this all important quality of rooting down, dropping our center of gravity downwards. It will also, although it's very subtle in the chair, it also initiates the compression of our legs and hips, feet, which leads to an upward movement. So it's not just about the physical route down, but about this cycle of movement, allowing gravity down through the body, and then feeling that response, that sense of a wave-like rising energy coming up through the body. Slowly turning your head. So try to maintain this posture as we move. And this then makes us think about how we're moving. And that quality of sung is actually the flavor of all the movements that we make in Tai Chi. We started with just noticing how that felt in the sort of contracting movements, dropping our shoulders, releasing our hips, and so on and so forth. But actually, we want to try and feel it the whole time. The image of moving through water may be helpful to you here. And then your shoulders, hands in front of your shoulders, circling your elbows back. And in particular, if as we move, we sort of hit a barrier, an area of stiffness or tightness, an area that just feels a bit blocked. Once again, the intention would be to one way or another find a way of releasing in that area. It might just simply be that awareness, that intention to release. We might want to think about again how we're moving or our posture, use of imagery, and then going forwards. So we gradually begin to identify and release those areas in our body which don't move quite so easily. And this helps to encourage the feeling of movement, of energy flowing through our body, our whole body. Hands down to your sides and rotating your arms. So this is an ongoing quality that we want to cultivate through the Tai Chi practice that aids the sense of the flow of energy in a smooth, harmonious way through our bodies. Bringing your hands up. Now, winding your arms and your wrists around. And see how this feels in shoulders, elbows, wrists, joints of your fingers. Looking for a nice, smooth, fluid movement. That nice job. I'm going to come forwards now. Whether you're forwards or further back, just have a sense of the bones at the base of your pelvis, thinking of them as being like the blades of a rocking chair, and tilt a little bit more forwards. So that your head will go forward. Don't let your head go further than your knees. Press down gently through your feet to push your head back up to the original position. Hips are dropping back as though somebody's grabbed hold of the top of your belt and is sort of pulling you backwards as you go forwards. So your hips sinking down, hips releasing, and the counterbalances the extension forwards, stopping you from overextending and helping you to come back to the more upright position. Letting the weight transfer from predominantly in your hips to more in your feet, and then back, smooth, wave-like quality to that movement. And remembering that downward movement, particularly as you go forward into your legs, this feeling of compression, which then causes our legs to expand, giving us again this rise and expanding movement. It's there in the lower back and hips as well when we bring the weight back. A little bit more subtle there. This time from the rear position, turn so that you can direct your weight more towards one leg. This gives you a chance just to really look at what's happening in the leg, that sense of the leg being compressed. And if there's any feeling of resistance there, might notice that, particularly around your knees. It's quite common to trying to release that to get the full movement. And then turning the other way. From the forward position, turn towards your other foot, and then back into the hip behind there and across. So the pelvis now rolling around, drawing your head and shoulders around in a small circle, one that would fit comfortably within that square again. You don't want to be right out here. A smooth, wave-like massaging quality to it. And back the other way. Just recognizing the increasing significance of what's happening in that center part of your body, how it moves the rest of your body. It moves your weight, it moves your head and shoulders. Eventually, it's going to move your arms. Moving from your center, moving from the ground, because the center's also that part of the body that's dropping in towards the ground. Coming back to the center. And then raise one foot, push out, put your heel down, lower the ball of the foot, gently press in, plant the foot. So measure your steps so you can comfortably apply that pressure downwards. Not too long a step. And this time, plant and transfer your weight. Same thing on the other side. First of all, what we would call in Tai Chi an empty step. A step, but without any weight in it, well, other than the sort of minimal weight of part of your leg. But now, having planted the foot, we move forwards up, weight fills the leg up. Trying to feel that as you move forwards, you feel the pressure, first of all, in the sole of your foot. And it like a glass filling up with water. And then we're going to alternate from side to side. So plant this foot down, parallel to, and the foot move across slightly, step out, transfer the weight, and back. Okay. So coming back to the original position, and just give yourself a few moments to once again to sort of appreciate this. You might want to apply some kind of label to it, as I mentioned before. Spacious, calm, whatever. This is the feeling that we want to try and sustain as we go through all of the movements. And so this is going to have an impact on how we move. If we move too far, if we put too much strain into the movement, we'll start to lose this sense of what's happening in the body when there is that space, sense of the flow and so on. So maybe take a couple of slow, gentle breaths, because your breathing might reflect the space that's actually in your body. Let your hands drop down. turn them palm forwards, and then just easing forwards and rotate your arms and back. So bird folds its wings. The quality of the movement can be variously described. A very common image that we use is that we're moving through water. One of the great things about that as an image is it actually helps to feel the movement to feel a little bit more resilient rather than simply only flowing. We could imagine it like a wave flowing through the body from our hips, through the upper body, down into our feet, and then back. It can feel as though your body's being very gently massaged by the movement. It's particularly true, I think, for the upper body. So whichever image, whichever idea is most useful to you is the one to try and just keep in your intention. When we lose that quality, this is when we come back to looking at posture, how we're moving, various factors that combine to give us the quality of the movement. Making sure that we don't strain to move. So if you are back in the chair, one thing, if you're sitting right back, one thing to be aware of is if you go right back to here, you're actually angled backwards, which means at the start of the movement, you're having to somehow push yourself up. So even though you're using the back of the chair for support, try to come back to this sort of position. So the forwards movement, it's almost like you're falling into your legs. It's allowing gravity to pull you forwards, but not so far that you fall out the chair. So being pulled into your legs, into your feet, it's quite a precise movement. Now change into the exercise fisherman cast a net. Hands are down here. Keep them facing backwards. Push back, let your shoulders go first, and then let your arms swing through. Do this on both sides. Same thing going forwards. It can feel almost as though just for a moment before your arms move, somebody's lightly gripped your fingers. So your shoulders move, the weight moves, but your arms are left behind just a little. And again, very subtle, but you might feel there's a kind of gentle pull through your arms, gentle lengthening, and then comes the release. And not to stiffen up in the joints of your arms and fingers. It's a really useful exercise. It's very straightforward, but encompasses much of what we're looking for in all of the movements, both seated and standing. This time, don't let your arms come back. Leave them in position. So as you come back, they're drawn over. So they're on top of a ball, just rolling the ball in towards you. Try not to think in terms of actively lifting your arms. You'd lose contact with the ball anyway. And doing so would tend to block your awareness of this rising movement from your feet. Remember that wave-like movement. It might be that instead of imagining the ball that you're rolling in, you actually imagine the wave coming up, and then your arms might start to go up a little bit higher. Again, there's a slight delay, it's like pulling your arms, an extension and a contraction. By no means are we suggesting that arms and hands aren't active in this, but we don't want them to carry the bulk of the movement. It's not sort of doing this kind of thing. Feeling the movement from the soles of your feet up into your belly, your chest, and your arms, and then down into your hips, into the chair, into the ground, forwards again into your feet. Realizing that that quality of song, that releasing feeling that we spent a bit of time looking at the start of the session, allows gravity down through your body without restriction. Theory without restriction. And once again, that downward movement leads to the upward movement. So song is the process which allows this generation of the energy that arises from the ground. Now, as your arms come up the sun, turn your hands palm in, draw your elbows apart, front of your body expanding and then contracting. This is pigeon spreads its wings. We want to try and feel that the movements are one movement through the body, not separate movements with feet, arms, shoulders, and so on and so forth. And once again, this idea of a rise in movement, a rise in energy can help with that. Fill in the body. And then draining away, empty. Pigeon spreads its wings. One more time. Let your hands come in this time and leave them in front of your hips. Still let your elbows go out. So there's still a very subtle feeling of your front of your body expanding and then pressing forwards, pushing wave. As you go forwards, your elbows will come in and the wave movement pushes your arms forwards. And they'll naturally curve up. Try not to think in terms of sort of lifting your arms. It's just this very gentle curve. If I tend to exaggerate this just a little bit, it feels as though they sort of dip down slightly and then up. And then pulling back. So this gentle curve. In fact, the dip down is more about the heel of your palm gently pressing downwards rather than feeling that it's too exaggerated. It's very hard to display what is being felt quite often in Tai Chi because the movements are so very, very subtle. But if we follow the basic guidelines and moving through water, keeping the posture, releasing, then many of these things just arise for us in the process of actually practicing the movements. Find it with the stepping. So turn toward one foot, Step out, plant the foot, follow up with the weight and press forward. Coming back, bring the foot in, plant the foot down, turn towards the other foot, and same thing there. Take your time changing over. Notice how your body does this. Use a slight shift across, a slight turn. Again, these are very small movements. And practicing these, you're having an effect on the mechanics of movement in your pelvis, pelvic floor. These are very fine motor movements that are easily lost as we grow older. But this helps to restore them, to cultivate them. Try not to stiffen up around your belly, lower back. Maintaining that sense of space, especially in the center of the body. Do one more of these on each side. Now, facing forwards again. This time, roll your fingers into a hollow fist. Go forwards, rotating your arms as much through 180 degrees as possible. Coming back. This time, two things to note. One is your elbows don't go out. Your elbow comes straight back and settles in front of your hip. And this time, your arm doesn't come up. Now, if you left the elbow bent, it would do. So as you go forwards, there's an extension through your arm, but making sure that you don't lock your elbow out. You don't want to lock the joints out ever. Trying to feel the rotating movement deep into your shoulders. If you can't comfortably rotate your arms through the whole 180 degrees, don't force this, but it is worth practicing this because it can help you get back that range of movement. Remember, hips dropping back as you go forward. So in your back and spine, this rhythm of extension, yang, traction in. One more of these. The end of the movement, open your fingers, turn out, winding out, come back in, and once again, this pressing movement, pushing wave. Turning your hands palm down. Turn your upper body, go forwards towards your knee, extending through your back and spine again, this time out through your arms. Turn and come back to the original position. Then same thing going in the other direction, polishing the table. Feel that very subtle movement through your hips, waist, I'm going to stand up and demonstrate how this movement looks standing. So you have an idea of what we're looking for in the area of your hips. So hips go back. Notice how my hips swing across here. And then hips drop back, bringing me to the upright position into the center. And then the same thing in the other direction. So we can't get the same degree of movement, obviously, from the outside. Our hips will be sliding all over the chair if we try to do that. We can still begin to feel that movement within our body. But this is really very subtle. One more time. Okay, so now turn your hands palm up. Settle down into your hips, a bit of weight in your feet, and then gently pushing up, feeling that rising wave, pushing your arms up, and then settling down. So this exercise is called rooting down because there's a downward movement through feet and hips, a dropping of your center of gravity that leads to the upward movement. And in general, in Tai Chi, we would always want that to happen, regardless of what happens after. That connection to the ground is always key importance. So we feel the push up coming up to our back, through our spine, like a wave again, rippling upwards and then draining away. Turning hands out. Same idea, but this time the expansion, pushing your arms away from your body. This is the wild goose. Notice here, if I exaggerate a little bit, how my elbows move first. And that draws my wrists and my fingers through. So try not to think of having to lift your arms. And then heart in the clouds. Into your hips and pushing up. I'm going a little bit higher, but still think of the progression of the movement from your feet and your hips, from the ground up into the lower back and belly, solar plexus, pushing the elbows out, up into the chest, drawing your fingers apart, and then down again. So again, this sense of a continual connected movement flowing through your body, sense of the energy linking contact with the ground to your fingertips. One more time. Once your arms are up this time, don't go forwards anymore, but let your arms just drop down. Feel your center sinking down, your hips sinking into the chair, and then focusing on the expansion on one side of your body. It's this dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Fall down. Once again, feel that sense of sinking through your center, and then focusing on the expansion on the other side. So there's a change in intention here. The intention is to expand and contract on one side of your body. Then it's an intention to sink through your center, and then to expand and contract on the other side. So built into these movements is the idea of a return to a root, to that sense of being centered, a return to the qualities of that posture: stillness, spaciousness, openness, calmness. Again, you know, whichever of those labels or any other labels were significant to you, so that they begin to pervade the whole practice. Changing. So this time, bring your hands up to the inside of your arm, just lightly touches the side of your center. Pushing up. This idea of bringing your attention, bringing your body back to that more centered quality for just a moment, helps us to avoid a very common syndrome that we speed up. So it's no good trying to force yourself to move slowly, but you can sort of break the chain of events that leads you to speeding up in mind and body, just by establishing that little moment of stillness, moment of settling before you push out. So this is a good way to establish that. An awareness of the physical center of your body is one of the primary ways we start to cultivate this sense of the stillness within the movement. But we don't want to feel that it's restricted to that. So having got used to that idea of what I sometimes refer to as punctuating the movement, like a comma in a sentence, we can also begin to recognize it here at the top of the extension. And here, so rather than push out and come back, there's a moment of just settling and then coming back. And in that moment, this time, extend one foot, turn your hands, arm forwards, ease forwards, hips dropping back, but your hands extending, your back extending, scooping the sea and looking at the sky. And so once again, loosely fist your hands and go forward, extend upwards, grasping the tiger's ears. And then changing over. Do this on the other side, scooping the sea, looking at the sky. You may find that this is one of the few movements, I'll show you from the side, because the leg is extended, where actually you don't have to do this, but you may just angle back a little bit. But again, be careful here. Let the hips drop down if you do this, and sort of draw your shoulders forwards. Try, if you are angling back, and I say you don't need to do that, try not to sort of jerk your head up, sort of fold inwards to do this. And then grasping the tiger's ears. One more time. Now, prior to standing up, so rubbing your hands together, again, tapping over your face, over your head and neck, down to one shoulder, and your arm, other side, and the upper part of your chest. Your belly, and the legs. Pushing your heels up just to reactivate the muscles of your legs after sitting for a while, and then circle back the other. Standing. So the standing postures should have the same qualities, the same feel as the seated. Structurally, they're going to be different because you don't have a chair there. And this time, that straight line that I mentioned from shoulder to hip extends down to our ankle. You can see how my arms are falling. And just releasing in your hips, let yourself sink down and push up. Here we can really feel how the movement downwards leads to the upward rise in energy. Up in the same time. And then what we're going to do is 3 exercises linked up, starting with rooting down. Expanding, contracting. As you settle in at the bottom of the movement, turning your fingers out and going into the wild goose. And then letting your hands drop down and parting the planks. One more round. Now, turn one foot out, step forwards. Notice that my feet are wide apart, wide enough apart to support my body. You can see the background between my legs. And transferring your weight, this time very much from foot to foot. Again, there's that little moment of settling in. So there's a very good chance that in the transition of your weight, the transfer of your weight from one foot to another, you lose some of these qualities of the postures. So we take just a moment to get them back. And a lot of this is to do with intention. There's obviously a physical aspect to this, but it's the intention to release. And as we practice this more, it becomes a very quick but a very important process, because again, it just stops that sense of acceleration. You bring your weight into your back foot. As you settle down, you raise your front toes. As you settle into the front foot, you push your back knee forward so your heel comes up. So now you're starting to find those qualities of rooting and aligning over one leg. And you step in. Planting the foot. And on the other side, first of all, simply transferring your weight, what we would call fixed step. You're not raising your toes, not raising your heel at this point. Just feeling the simple transfer of the weight, allowing time for that settling. Now you can begin to raise toes and heel. And so I've got my front foot slightly turned out here. For me, this helps me to open my hip, to allow the weight to flow down more. It's only a slight turn out. It shouldn't make any difference to the direction that I'm moving in. Stepping in. Planting the foot. Take a few steps through, either forwards or backwards, depending on where you have to go. And then change direction. Take your time. Remember, we have these moments of simply settling, releasing. Term that we use is that we have this sense of stillness within the movement as much as possible. Okay, so now have your right foot forwards, mirroring my movements. Start with your hands at your side and your weight in your back foot. So bringing the upper body back into the movement. Move your weight forward, settle into the front foot and turn. Just like that. Swing your arms out, raise the back heel, bring the foot in. It's called dragonfly skims the water. You step through. Plant the foot, lower your hands down as you move your weight. Turn. Bring the foot in. Step through. Don't overextend your arms. And then going back very carefully. Feeling here that everything's kind of nice and stable and spacious before you take the step. Now this time, change direction again. And if you feel comfortable with this, once you've brought the foot in, just raising up and rotating your leg and step through. Turning a little bit, bring the foot in, drawing it. Step. Focus on that feeling of your hips dropping back, which really enables the alignment and the rooting down of your body. Change direction. One more time. And go back to your chairs. So there's a rhythm, a pattern underlies all of these movements, extension, contraction, movement and stillness, however you care to think about it. And this leads us to the last exercise, Embrace Tiger, Return to Mountain. A bit more emphasis on the settling aspect of this, if anything. But again, just feeling that sense every now and then of coming back into your center, coming back into the ground, with an idea of those qualities that we associate with the movements and with the postures. They're very easily lost, but we can get them back again. So starting with your arms at your sides, push them out, and then bringing your arms around as though you're going to hold a ball against your chest. Drawing in, and then let your hands drop down. Again. Embrace Tiger, Return to Mountain. One more time. And okay. Lovely. As always, thank you very much, everybody. Always pleased to hear any questions or feedback. So feel free to get in touch. Bye for now.